Welcome to episode 6. Today we're talking about fear of the unknown, worry, anxiety, and all the stress that comes with it. Wow. Did that actually make sense? Stress that comes with it. Oh, off to a good start this morning. I will explain or try to explain the psychological aspects, define some terms, help you identify what causes worry and stress and anxiety, fear of the unknown. Then I'll share some of the symptoms and their effects. I'm going to try to explain to you or give you some ideas on how to combat the stress that they create and just kind of cope with having that worry of not knowing what you don't know. So, there is a psychological term for fear of the unknown, and it is called xenophobia. The dictionary definition says that it means the fear of strangers or foreigners, but it's just such a broader meaning, has such a broader meaning today. So it is a diagnosable term, and the term for that is called xenophobia. But we're not going to focus too much on that. I'm going to try to unpack some information here for you. So, obviously, uncertainty is just part of our natural human experience. We just don't know what we don't know. But we're all unique in our experiences and our upbringings, how we were raised. All of our experiences in life contribute to who we are today, and how we deal with trauma, how we deal with our emotions, things like that. So, some individuals are going to thrive in uncertain times, while others may even become emotionally paralyzed. It's the way you respond to that uncertainty that may depend that will depend on how you react. So, if you have that fear of the unknown, it doesn't mean that it's because of something that happened to you. It's just your natural response because of the foundation you have made for you throughout your life so far. But again, as we know, we can always affect change. We can always change our behaviors. We can always change our thought patterns. So we're just going to keep unpacking that, keep talking about this, and hopefully I can open up some doors for you to understand how maybe we can combat this fear of the unknown. Do you fear spiders or snakes? I know for me, I'm huge about snakes. Snakes and heights are my two things. I don't know why. When I was a kid, I used to play with those little gardener snakes. Gartner. I think it's Gartner, Gartner. I think I called them gardener snakes, like gardener in the garden when I was a kid. But I used to love them, and I would play with those gardener snakes, and it was not a big deal, but today, me and snakes are just not a thing. I just don't know why, but they creep me out and freak me out so much. Um, so having a fear of, say, spiders or snakes or something like that, it's a learned behavior. Obviously, I didn't have a problem with them when I was a child, but I do now. So I don't think I've ever been bitten or ever had anything happen, but there's something there, I think that is a learned behavior that is keeping me from having or, creating this irrational fear of snakes. So some of the creatures, just going off of my notes here, apologize. So spiders and snakes, obviously some of those creatures can be venomous. They can, bite you and kill you. Brown recluse, um, copperheads, different things like that, water moccasins. But not all fears are based on such concrete information like that. Like, okay, obviously a snake is venomous. If it bites me, I could die. Some fears are based on what you don't know. So, and that's kind of what I was talking about just a minute ago. Although you may fear what you don't know, there's really no way to know what you don't unless you learn it, right? I know that's kind of hard. You don't know what you don't know, and you don't know how to know what you don't know unless you learn it. So again, I'm going to try to unpack this a little bit for you. But it's not possible all the time to know everything. It just isn't. So that, my friends, just requires your acceptance of that. Accept that I don't know what I don't know. Okay. So we unfortunately are human and we cannot predict the future. We do not know what's going to happen to us tomorrow. So that's kind of where I want to start. I just want us to accept the fact that it's not possible to know everything all the time. You don't know what you don't know. We're going to accept that, and then we're going to just try to move on and try to learn about how we can take that knowledge of not knowing what we don't know and move it into something positive, re-anchor some behaviors and thoughts after we unpack these symptoms, these causes, things like that, and try to move forward and try to re-anchor some new behaviors. So, some of the symptoms we've discussed: stress triggers, emotional responses in the body and mind. Fear of the unknown works within those parameters too. So, the effects of fear on the body are results of your fight or flight response. Obviously, if you feel like you're, being chased by a bear, you're gonna run, or maybe not, but you're gonna have a fight or flight response. Most commonly, those symptoms are things, like we've talked about these before. So those fight or flight responses are like fast heart rates, shallow breathing, tense muscles, quick breathing, um, weaknesses. They can even spike your blood glucose, things like that. So those are some of the symptoms of the fight or flight response, but they're not necessarily symptoms of fear of the unknown. So we need to unpack this a little further. What causes fear of the unknown and worry about the future? Well, I mean, a lack of control or predictability obviously is what's going to make you worry or have anxiety about what's coming, what's coming up or what's forthright. The feeling that you can't control circumstances or what's going to happen to you, that definitely can work against you. Now, that's the negative part of it. However, it can also work positively for you. It all depends on what you're putting into your mind, your thoughts and behaviors that will follow. So, obviously, um, not feeling like you can take charge of your own life, not feeling like you have control of your own life. I think that state of mind or that thought process, that cycle of, hey, I don't have control. I don't know what's going to happen to me tomorrow. I could die. I could, all these things can happen. Right. But you could also win the lottery. You could also find out that your family member, brother, sister, in law who couldn't have children is now pregnant. I mean, there are so many wonderful things that could happen to us today and tomorrow, and we just don't know. So, that fear of the unknown and that worry, that anxiety that it causes, typically that stems from, and I think I've said this before, stems from another trauma. It's caused by something else that we are worried that our future isn't going to be good. But let me tell you, I am a Jesus follower and I believe that Jesus is always working things out for good. And I believe that your life and my life, and every one of the listeners that's listening today, your life is important. Your life is valuable. You are loved. And God is always working things out for good. So let's take that thought and move forward with that. Let's anchor that. Everything is working out for good. Bad things may happen, but everything is working out for good. There is no need for us to worry about the unknown because someone has already prepared a place and a path for us that is good. Um, and then we'll talk a little bit more about how to, when negative things come up, when bad situations arise, how to combat them. So, combating what you can. Um, so I guess I write notes before I outlines before, obviously, before I host these podcasts. And I'm sorry I haven't had anybody on to chat with me, and that's coming up. So my boring voice or my annoying voice, hopefully, will only be this episode, maybe the next, and then we'll be able to have some conversations. But if you want to reclaim your captain status, if you want to feel like you do have a little bit of control over your life, you can start by analyzing your circumstances, listening to the things that you can and cannot control. Because, like I said, there will be things that you can control, there will be things that you cannot control. But, and I hate to say reclaiming, but if you, this tool that I'm going to give you, this thought, combat tool, will hopefully help you to separate yet combine what you can and what you can't control. And that'll give you a little bit more of peace of mind because you will be able to see your circumstances. So, you know me, I love my lists. Lists help you define what you want, what you need. They're great for keeping track of your progress. They're also incredibly helpful as a visual aid guiding you through your process, helping you to achieve successes as you complete your tasks. So, we're going to make a list. One side's going to say can, the other side's going to say cannot. And these are the things that you can and cannot control in your life. Okay. So, um, after that, we're going to compose a plan, and that'll include some steps that you can take that are within areas of your control. So, we'll use that can list of things that we can control, and then we'll compose a plan of things that we can control. So, we'll be giving ourselves some forward progress in that regard of allowing ourselves like, hey, we can control this. And we'll be anchoring some new thoughts and behaviors at that point too. So looking at your can side of the list, let's just start there. Go ahead and make your list. You may not be making it right now. I'm going to go ahead and go through my list because I already made it. But as you make your list, you can go back and listen to this part of the podcast too. And then that might be a little more helpful after your list is complete. But looking at your can side of the list, what things can you control? I like to have my items parallel to each other. So, for instance, I wrote um, what I choose to wear. That's what I can control. It's my choice what I choose to wear. And of course, we all have to wear clothes. But what kind of clothes are we gonna wear? Do we wanna wear hoodies and sweats, or are we gonna wear fancy dresses all the time, or jeans or slacks or khakis, or do we have a dress uniform that we have to wear every day? Anyways, we are in control of what we choose to wear. Your cannot side is the weather. Unfortunately, we're not Mother Nature. We can't control the weather. So if it's snowing outside, I have the control over what I wear. So obviously, I'm going to dress appropriately for the weather. So I know that's really simple and basic, but I want you to understand it like that too. Things you can and cannot control. So let's say if you're in a new relationship or a relationship that's dissolving, um, making a list like this of things you can and can't control really will help you to understand certain things that are with outside of your control. If there's nothing that you can do to control those, there may be something you can do to contribute to something or someone that can help you navigate through a process. But as far as actually having physical control over it, like you would a vehicle where you put the key in the ignition, turn it over, turn the steering wheel, and the car turns a certain direction. Um, physical rather than having physical control, um, you may be able to you may this list will help you define the difference between those 2, okay? Because a lot of the times I think our mind goes to like, "Oh, we feel like we can control that." So then on your, let's see, then on my cannot side, I wrote someone else's behavior or attitude. On my can side, I wrote my behavior and attitude. On my cannot side, I wrote someone else's behavior of attitude or attitude. So I am in control of my own feelings. I am in control of my own responses. Um, and if I'm struggling with a mental disorder, it may be that my body is not responding the appropriate way to be able to control my behavior and attitude. And then that's a different subject. But for physical sense, I am in control of my behavior and attitude. I am not in control of the gentleman behind me or woman behind me, person, driver behind me that is tailgating me, or the individual that is in front of me in a supermarket, or in back of me, or the person next to me in a store or in a movie theater that is on their phone. Those are things I cannot control other people's behavior. I cannot control their attitudes, how they speak to people, how they treat me, the looks they give me. I can't, but I can control my behavior and attitude. So when someone treats me unkindly or with disrespect or is rude or mean or aggressive or something to me in public or even on social media, all I can control is my own behavior. And I know that. I can't control what they say, but I can control how I respond. And so that's important to me. And I think that's an important thing for us to realize, and for us to try our best to have positive responses, to have good responses to those behaviors of others that are negative. So, as we know, the only thing that can drive out hate is love. And so that is where I go when something like that happens, I respond with love. And that, my friends, will help you re anchor a very much more positive mindset when it comes to dealing with aggressive people or unfriendly people. So I hope all this is making sense. So, anyways, go ahead, finish your list. Then, after that list is complete of your cans and cannots, what you can control in your life, and again, you can take this from driving your car, what you wear in the morning, or whatever situation you're in, your cans and your cannots. So you will find after you separate these, um, you'll have a better idea, of your some of your behaviors. You'll be able to be like, "Oh, yeah, well, I can't control that, and last time I responded this way." So it'll start to identify some things for you, but it'll give you some perspective, I guess. And then just remember that all your behaviors soon become habits. And so, if you have negative behaviors that you're changing to positive behaviors, negative responses that you can now see, oh, I could have responded with this word or this thing, and this would have been more positive, that is going to form a habit, which will, your behavior, um, what am I trying to say here? You will find that these behaviors soon become habits and change your perspective on many things. I hate reading from my outline, so trying not to do that. But sometimes when I'm looking at where I'm at and I'm speaking to you, I just want to make sure that's all um, easy to understand. So, again, when we modify something, add or remove some type of variable to our current situation, thought, behavior, etc., we change the outcome. And that's what I was trying to say. Um, and it's that exactly that we're trying to achieve here. We're trying to relieve the stress that worry and fear cause. Any fear of the unknown. They cause us stress, they cause us worry. And so we're trying to unpack why they do that and how we can combat them. So, if you feel like you suffer from fear of the unknown, and I don't want to say suffer, but if you feel like I have fear of the unknown, you also know that it can cause a sometimes desperate and unhealthy lifestyle. So, you waste valuable energy anticipating worst case scenarios, just negative thoughts. And then you're anchoring those in. And so those can affect other aspects of your life as well. I recently read an article. It was on, I think it was something about fear of the unknown, but it was from a woman who is also a Jesus follower. And I just thought it was kind of cool. In the article, she stated that there are two problems with this type of fear of the unknown. One, the future's not here yet. Duh. Two, the future's not ours. And again, brilliant. You know, I agree with that because the future is out of our hands, but it's not out of God's. Joel Osteen, I always butcher his last name. Joel Osteen wrote a book. It's titled Peaceful on Purpose. In the book, he states that God already gave you permission to give him all of your worries. And God wants you to let go of all your second guessing, all your overthinking, and He's trying his hardest to silence that voice that tries to talk you out of His promises. Because God has made promises to you. And as I said in the beginning of this podcast, I believe God is working everything for good. Not everything is going to be good all the time, but I believe everything is working together for good. So, if you're a Jesus follower, you probably already know how powerful God's love is and how God's love can heal and comfort you in ways no other person can, including me and my podcast. But I want to try. So, my pastors, Judah and Chelsea Smith, they've done more than a few sermons on worry and anxiety, and they're all amazing. But there was one that they did back, I believe it was April of 2020. I think they did it live on Instagram, but it's also posted on YouTube, so you can go and check it out now. It's called Displacing Worry. In that episode, which is pretty much like a guided prayer, they talk about God's love for humanity and how He doesn't want anyone to worry or have anxious to anyone to worry or be anxious or have fear of the unknown, but to rest in Him. They shared this verse, and I'm going to share it with you. It's Philippians 4, verse 6 and 7. Do not be anxious about anything, but in everything, by prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. The message I received from that scripture was, don't worry about anything, pray about everything. And my friends, I have that hanging on the wall in my home. God knows all my concerns and he wants to help. And I know that. And I know that he's working everything together for good every moment of every day. My pastor reads, before you know before you know it, a sense of God's wholeness and everything coming together for good will come and settle you down. Jesus displaces the worry at the center of your life. Wow. Wow, that's so good, right? Well, you can check out this and other guided prayers on our Church Home app. That's ChurchHome, only one H, guys. Um, so on the Church Home app, also Church Home is on Facebook and YouTube. So I believe all the content is helpful, inspiring, and comes from such a loving place. It's a community of complete strangers who care about who you are and what you're going through. And it's such a wonderful experience to be part of this community. I feel like it's a community, it's just an incredible community where you feel like you can belong. So at the end of their segment, they ask you to repeat three short, simple prayers or statements. And this is why I said I think that it's a daily prayer or something that they had recorded along those lines. So if you would like to follow along with me, feel free. You can say these things out loud, right, as you're listening to me read them. And if you don't, that's fine. I am going to step out of talking about Jesus here in just a moment. So please, if you're not a Jesus follower, don't leave me yet. Um, these are just some things that I wanted to talk about that I feel passionate about. So thank you for listening to this content with me. So at the, I'm going to repeat these three short, simple prayer statements. So God, thank you for listening to me. God, thank you for being the center of my life. God, thank you for your wholeness. These are the three simple prayers and statements that my pastor Judah and his wife Chelsea Smith, pastors, they're amazing. Um, these are what they shared with us. And so I'm hoping that I can share them with you and that these can be anchors for forward progress in your life. God, thank you for listening to me. God, thank you for being the center of my life. God, thank you for your wholeness. So, if I might encourage you again, this episode, maybe you could use this opportunity to start your day with some hope and some faith. Every day can't be the best day ever, but you can always make the best out of every day. And I know that sounds very cliche, and I know that sounds like some motivational quote from some Google website, but it's the truth. Every day can't be the best ever, but you can make the best out of every day. And I believe that we can make the best out of each day by using our gratitude and faith, being grateful for what we have and what we have been given, being grateful for the lives that we have, the food that we have, the people that are in our lives, the vacations that we've taken, just everything. And have faith that tomorrow could be a bad day, but could be a good day too. We just don't know. So, as much as we could live in worry and fear, we could also live in rest and contentment that tomorrow is going to be an amazing day. So, it's your choice to choose which perspective you want to have. And I hope that I can encourage you to use some of the things I've talked about today to help turn your thoughts into good thoughts for tomorrow. As I've said many times before, nothing in life is permanent. Good will come and go, as if will bad. But if we learn how to deal or cope with the not so good, not so fun, pretty times, then we can enjoy more of the good times. And you will enjoy more of the good times with a positive outlook and a positive attitude. Have you ever met someone that's happy even when their world seems like it's crashing around them? People who, like maybe during the pandemic, were their best selves, they seem to be thriving. It makes me wonder, what thoughts and behaviors do they have? Um, and again, if you're not a Jesus follower, or you don't follow this type of faith, that's okay. Of course, you guys know I am. So I'm I'm able to relate and speak more cohesively about Jesus and his teachings. Nonetheless, I do have some thoughts that can be applied to every individual living on this earth, no matter what you believe or what path of faith you've chosen. So, think of this statement. Everything in this universe is working together for good. Go ahead and say that with me. Everything in this universe is working together for good. Do you believe in karma? Do you believe in an afterlife or reincarnation? If so, what are your thoughts on these things? Curious. I really am. Where do they come from? How do they exist? Where do we go when we die? Um, these are all questions that I know that I've met people and I've gotten some information, but if you don't believe in Jesus and you believe in something else, then I ask you these questions and I really am curious to hear what your responses are. So, thoughts are can be subjective. Actually, most thoughts are subjective. There are so many ideas and beliefs to so many questions, and I believe it's just best to let the individual, you, make your own decision based on what facts are presented to you. As much as I love sharing all my experiences with Jesus, and I hope you're incredibly encouraged and inspired and maybe even intrigued to seek Jesus out, I feel that it's important to remember and to remind you that you are loved no matter what your belief or ideas are, no matter what visions or concepts you have. You are loved and you are accepted. When you follow a guide or guideline of common good, you are drawn towards goods or goodness that it creates happiness, joy, enlightenment, fulfillment, and so on. Again, let me say that again. When you follow a guide or guideline for common good, you are drawn towards that goodness. So I believe when we use a guideline of common good and we use this, we're going to do good. We're going to live good, healthy lives. We're going to eat healthy. We're going to be kind to others. We're going to, whatever it may be, pay your bills on time. But whenever you're using a guide, following a guide or a guideline of common good, you are drawn towards goodness that it can create happiness, joy, enlightenment, fulfillment, all of that. So I think this is something that everyone can agree on. Okay, well, we all know that combating stress isn't easy and learning new behaviors is just flippin' challenging. But I know you're equipped to handle all of it. And I know with the right amount of faith, the right amount of belief, perseverance, you will be unstoppable. So, if I can encourage you today, can you just take a moment, write out that list so that you can define what you can and can't control? Then write in your journal about how you're feeling about this stuff, how you're feeling about the tasks that I've given you today. You know, um, I think you're ready to embark on this journey of creating new thoughts and behaviors. What do you think? Are you? Are you uncertain if it'll help? Because I believe it will. But I have to leave that up to you. At the least, I want to believe that these things, along with the other information I've provided to you in the previous episodes, are working in you as we speak to help you learn, grow, and develop new skills. Meditation, physical exercise, journaling, patience, gratitude, goal setting, anchoring those new positive thoughts and behaviors, and practice. Practice, my friends, is the key. As we practice all of these wonderful positive activities and we keep that positive mindset, the more we practice, the more we anchor these amazing thoughts and behaviors, um, the more that we anchor the thought that everything is working together for good. So, I believe these actions will assist you in living a more fulfilled, purpose driven life that is full of many happy and healthy moments. That's really all I have for today. So, thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to engage with this content. And I'm so proud of you for your proactiveness and the self love you're showing yourself right now by learning new techniques and working on your self development. Keep encouraging yourself to do better, to learn, and to grow. I appreciate you and I love you. Keep that head held high and keep going. This is your host, Coach T. Nee, and this is the Wellness Warehouse Podcast. Until next time, my friends.